It's bad. Anime.
Hey everybody, my name is John.
And my name is Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the podcast where we decide, is
this anime bad?
And today, lesbians in space. No, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You're still right. I mean, that is what we're talking about today. And
it is.
So, Bouncy, I have to kind of hijack the intro here a little bit because I have several questions to ask you because...
Oh, okay.
Today was a direct recommendation of mine. You know, we realized, hey, you know, we have some time in the schedule. We can definitely watch something else before we record. And I said, I have an idea. So I sent you to the link to what we're watching today. For those listening, we're watching the 1985 OVA. Oh, it came out 85 through 87, which is actually important. We'll talk about that.
Oh, interesting.
This is iczerone, baby. Actually a pretty decently well-known OVA. So
really? Okay.
Yeah, yes, it was one of those early titles that came over here, probably post Akira anime boom that, you know, a lot of stuff got imported. So Bouncy, a couple questions I need to ask you before we really dive into what this show was.
I'm very excited. Okay.
When you were watching and listening to the show, did anything strike you as familiar?
A few things, I feel like. I think, yeah, there were a few things about it that made me think about other shows. Specifically just mostly giant robot stuff. But also like the main character, iczerone, reminded me a lot of Lion-O from the Thundercats. And also kind of as Cutie Honey a little bit.
Interesting.
And then just the robot stuff, like being in the robot and whatnot, kind of reminded me a bit of Ava via like LCL and stuff like that. The fluid that she was in, Nagisa, when she was controlling the robot. And I think that's it. But it really echoed of a lot of the 80s OVAs that we've watched previously.
There's a reason why specifically I talk about the OVAs, because I should have specified there. You gave me the plot points, which is good, but because this was produced by a studio called AIC. This is now the fifth AIC property we've covered on this show.
Wow. Wait, wasn't that Campus Special Investigator Hikaruon?
Bingo. That's one of them. That's actually this was before Hikaruon. Yeah, this was if I remember correctly, I think this is AIC's first or second work that wasn't porn.
Setting the bar very high. Wait, this wasn't porn? Is what you're telling me?
Well, kind of and kind of not. We'll get to that a little bit later when we
a little bit of both. It towed the line sometimes.
Well, okay, so I'll talk about this now real quick, then we'll get back to my point.
Here we go.
This was adapted originally from a hentai manga. So here's the thing: early hentai was fucking nuts because I assume the guys who were drawing this stuff said, it's already porn, it's going to be niche. Let's have fun with it. Let's add robots. Let's add the transforming body horror. Let's add all these elements that we like. Let's add tentacle monsters because it's already
a lot of tentacle monsters. That was...
This one in particular, yes, but we're going to get to that in a second. So the early days of hentai was a wild, wild west. This and I think Dream Hunter Rem are another great example of shows that kind of transcended their beginnings as porn because they're like, there doesn't need to be porn in this. This is already such a wildly imaginative, compelling...
It can stand alone. It doesn't need to be porn.
So that's exactly what happened, again, with this right here, with iczerone. And if I sound distracted, I'm just pulling up... yes, I very much... Hold on, because I want to confirm before I say this, when it comes to the history of AIC and where this stands. Because yes, as you mentioned, our episode 0, as we called it, which was our pilot, was about Campus Special Investigator Hikaruon, which was at the time my favorite anime, which has been replaced by Ava, but still, this is a studio that means a lot to me. And yes, I just looked it up. This is the second work from AIC that isn't pornography.
That isn't porn. Yep. Got to put the asterisk there.
Got to put the asterisk there. Their first non-adult oriented work was Megazone 23, something I watched years ago. Something I would love to revisit for this podcast. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was another mech. It was a kind of a mech anime. But anyway, here we have ICZER 1, and the reason why I harped on the things feeling similar, yes, because it was the same studio. I think the director. Okay, the director wasn't in common, but the same guy who did the music for Hikaru also did the music for this.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Because if you listen to specifically the theme, whenever ICZER Robo showed up, it's very similar to like the main theme of Hikaru. It's actually very similar. It's in the same key, same tempo, and sometimes in this song when the melody would play, I'm like, you're playing Hikaru wrong. I got a little offended. But yeah, this is ICZER 1, and truthfully, how this came about a long time ago, because I got so invested in AIC. So to clarify what other AIC titles we've done, because we've done Hikaru, we've done Burn Up and Burn Up W.
Okay.
And Armitage the Third. Those are the...
That makes a lot of sense. That it was Armitage the Third was the other one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the studio has its style. And they have
very similar style among all of those animes, among all of those OVAs.
Exactly, and so this one was almost one of was the third one they ever produced. So originally, how I became aware of this is I've always really wanted to sit down and watch it, but again, I needed that impetus, that reason just to sit down and shut my brain off and watch. So I thought about what we can cover for the show, and I'm like, you know what? Let's actually do ICZER 1, because the only thing I saw of ICZER 1 was like the first 30 seconds before. I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to come back to this one. Because at the time I was kind of squeamish to the very intense body horror. But now I'm so broken, I'm like, yeah, no, this is time for me to watch it.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to come in this one raw together. I purposely didn't look up the plot at all before I watched it. I had no idea what the show was going to be about. And I said, let's watch it. And that's exactly what we did. So yeah, Bouncy, I'm gonna turn the mic back over to you for a second. When you opened this OVA, when you clicked the link I sent you, within like the first 5 minutes, what were your thoughts? Like, God damn it, Rob, or like, what are we doing today? Or like, of course, this is what's happening. What was going through your head?
I think the exact thoughts that went through my mind was I saw the thumbnail and I said, classic Rob. I clicked on it. I saw the title. I went, classic Rob. I saw the year. I went, well, that's just classic Rob. And then the show started, and I went like, oh, lesbians, fun. I think that was my entire wavelength of the show in that, because when you first start the show, right, it starts you in space, and it's a conversation between Cobalt and Sepia, who are like the villains, or of the villain, the area of the villain side of the story. Right. And they are just kind of like hanging out, like just lovingly holding each other. And there were a lot of points in the show, and I'll stop you at those points, when your explanation about it being porn really makes a lot of sense, because I feel like there were a lot of scenes where that didn't have an exact punchline. Yeah. And I think this was one of those scenes where I was looking at it and they were like hugging each other and like all over each other. And I think like every scene finished 5 seconds before it actually was supposed to finish, because they took out the porn, or at least like because they wanted to take out porn. Like now that I think back to all of these scenes, I'm like, it felt weird because it didn't have porn. Because it's not that I was expecting porn when I was watching it, but now that I know that it was supposed to be porn, I'm like, oh, yeah, it would have been a lot more natural. It would have been more natural if they just put in the porn. It would have flowed better. I don't know. Not that much porn, but like a little bit of porn here and there. Would have just like, it would have made sense to me a little more and made it like a more conglomerate OVA series, I think. But
it would have maybe a little more well-rounded. Maybe, it would feel
everything
like
would have had context. Exactly. Would have given me more context to things, and kind of took things the way that I thought they were going to go. Subconsciously. But either way, I started the show, and everything about this did ring bells to me. I don't know what kind of bells those were. As we talked before, it was very vague 1980s OVA bells, but those bells rang throughout, and it was very classic. Like, okay, you have this space entity and they created this this kind of this thing. I don't know what she is, but they created ICZER1, and she is like a member of the Cougar Wolf. Another
Wolf,
space race of sorts.
I had to rewind so many times to understand the fucking pronunciation, because they like all the voice actors clearly didn't know what it was supposed to read as, and they kind of all mumbled it. And the director was probably also too scared to admit he didn't know what the fucking word was. He was like, "Yeah, no, that's good, cool. It's Cougar Wolf, Cougar Wolf,
whatever. That's fine.
Whatever.
That
Yeah,
works.
nice.
Yeah, Cougar Wolf, whatever that is. But yeah, so that part of the plot, I was like, I don't really know what that is, but I know that there's these two sides. The side that built ICZER1 that wants to destroy ICZER1, and then there's ICZER1 who's just kind of hanging out on Earth right now, and trying to escape them. Yeah, she's just chilling. Just chilling. And then she meets Nagisa, who is our main character, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, she's even though the show is called ICZER1, Nagisa is more the emotional centerpiece.
Yes, because as we know,
episodes,
everybody in this show, or every like unit, has partners, right? Cobalt and Sepia are like the villainous partners, who would like, obviously a lot of lesbian sexual tension here. They are lovers and partners, and it's clear early on that ICZER1 wants Nagisa to be her partner. But Nagisa doesn't know who ICZER1 is, nor about anything that goes on in space. She's just a normal girl, and she's just going to school. And
she's desperately trying to fight off Saki. Wait, that's a different Nagisa.
Nagisa! Oh my god, a girlfriend callback. That is good. That is really good.
Yeah, I had to dig deep for that one.
Had to.
Honestly, you kept saying Nagisa. You kept saying Nagisa. I'm like, where the fuck have I heard that name before?
Yeah. I was thinking that too, so I'm happy you reminded me, because it just reminded me that it was also a blue-haired, big boob Japanese girl in a different anime. So there you go.
We're covering a lot of the same ground here. We keep finding ourselves in these paths. It's amazing. It's amazing
and scary at the same time. I'm happy to be here with you, though.
I'm happy to be here too. Maybe we'll throw in some more shoujo, some stuff for girls. You and I, maybe we'll watch some like wholesome rom-coms, and then there'll be a tentacle monster and be like, we'll never fucking mind then.
Yeah, never mind, because there are so many tentacle monsters in here. And I guess like the reason that ICZER1 gets involved with Nagisa is because Nagisa is continuously targeted by monsters of sorts, and specifically tentacle monsters. Lots of tentacle monsters.
There was a lot of them in this.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of body transformations, as you said.
Yeah.
People turning into these monsters, and it starts happening all around Nagisa's hometown. And she's like, what's going on? And ICZER1 comes in, and ICZER1's like, Nagisa, you have to come with me, and together we could defeat these monsters. And Nagisa's like, yo, who's this like Thundercats looking hoe right over here?
Thundercats,
ho! And ICZER1 is just, she knows a little bit of everything about this and like what she's doing. And they eventually got to fight the main villain. Her name is Big Gold, I believe.
Yeah.
No, that's not the world heavyweight championship belt from WWE from 2000 until 2002 until 2012 to 13 approximately. That is just the name of the villain.
It came back in like 2001 when they bought it back from WCW. So you're almost there.
Yeah. 01. That was the middle. Okay. Yep. But yeah, she's Big Gold, and my favorite part about Big Gold is she has a conversation with her main assistant or whatever, and they go to scenes with Big Gold, and she doesn't really talk for the first like 3/4 of the movie, but how she speaks, it sounds like a tea kettle is going off. It's like,
yes.
And then the guy's like, I understand, Big Gold. I'm very sorry. I'm gonna send fucking Cobalt, and Cobalt's gonna take out ICZER1, I swear.
Yeah.
And she's like, and he's like, okay, I got it. It's weird.
And then later, Big Gold later speaks in like the last 2 episodes of the OVA, because that relates to kind of the point. This is a little different than other OVAs we covered in that, from what I understand, I think it's Toshiaki Hirano was the director's name. We'll just call him Hirano for short. Hirano wasn't sure if he was going to get how many episodes he was going to get out of this. He got greenlit for 1. Hence why episode 2 ends on a cliffhanger. So once you got cleared for 2, he wanted to make it 3. So
Wow.
This story is kind of a little over the place in that regard because it clearly wasn't very well thought out. Because episode 2, they do a very interesting thing where they add a narrator. It's like, where was he in the first episode?
They just do that, and he's like, it comes in randomly. He's like, will Nagisa and ICZER1 defeat the threat, or will they not? And will we be fucked? And I'm like, sir, who are you? Where did you come from?
It's just so weird that, because it wasn't involved in the first one. You would think there'd be some, some correlation there. It was very bizarre.
Yeah, very bizarre. But throughout, right, you get those 3 parts, right? You get the first part, and it's kind of Nagisa and ICZER1 learning how to work together, and ICZER1 helps Nagisa summon ICZER Robo, which is a giant fucking robot, to destroy Cobalt, who is the first villain sent down from the villainous group. And she is killed. And obviously Sepia, her lover or partner, is looking out for super revenge on them. And Nagisa is still not... No.
That took you a second. That did.
I was like, oh, wait, no. Sorry, I have to shoot that down.
I am not going to, but I'm not going to redo that statement. I'm going to let it stand on its own.
Oh, you little...
you sounded like Emperor Palpatine there for a second.
You little... Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Redo.
But yeah, so Nagisa... redo it. And Nagisa is not really into the fact that this is all happening because her parents turned into monsters and ICZER1 had to yeet them out of existence. So she's like, you killed my parents. You also did all this stuff. What the hell's going on? So there's kind of that tension between the two. A lover's quarrel at first, if you will. But they end up defeating Cobalt. And then the second part, Sepia comes down with ICZER2, who is assumedly a built organism to kill ICZER1.
Exactly.
So Nagisa and ICZER1 have to work together in the second episode in order to combat that, which they do. And then episode 3 is kind of the sum up of everything. And some interesting things happen in episode 3, actually.
Go on.
Well, Nagisa spends a lot of her time on Earth with this daughter and her mom.
Right, that she found in during the battle between during Robos. Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, during the Robo battle, and a lot of that, she's kind of reconnecting with humans on Earth and being a human, while ICZER1 is just kind of off fighting monsters and doing other stuff that's not very well explained, but she's just off just doing her thing. And then
fighting the good
Sepia
fight.
Fighting the good fight, and then of course the child's mother turns into a giant tentacle monster and confronts Nagisa, which ICZER1's like, all right, I'm gonna come back and help. So she gives Nagisa a shield that she can use to prevent any of these monsters to attack her. And that's,
it was very reminiscent. Funny enough, actually, the director here has some kind of funny direct ties to Devilman, but the that scene reminded me very much actually of Crybaby more so than anything, where it was your mom's gone. That's not her anymore. It's
right. Yes,
because it wasn't a demon explicitly, but it was the same kind of it was the same scenario as when a person gets possessed in the context of Devilman. So it was one of those things. It's like, you son of a bitch, you're using plot devices that I like. And this also one very dumb thing we haven't mentioned yet over the course of 3 episodes is not only is there giant robots, ICZER1 has a lightsaber.
She does. Yeah, I completely forgot. I really wanted to bring that up, but I forgot about it. So thank you for mentioning it. Yeah, she just kind of has a lightsaber.
She has a blue one, and ICZER2 has a red one. And I'm like, you can't even make it different colors to make it a little less obvious where you're taking influence from. Not that I'm mad about it. I'm like, you guys want to avoid getting sued, maybe. But they do a good job.
It was just oh, okay.
But the thing is, they did hear what the same thing they did in Space Sheriff Gavon and Scheider, which were actually, funny enough, the influences for Ikaron. What they did here, instead of having the lightsaber be a tube, it actually looked like a sword. You know what I mean? They just put a point.
Yes.
So it's a little distinct from the lightsaber. So that's how they could claim originality. So bravo, AIC. I love you guys so much.
Good job. We love your programs.
Yeah, and it's just crazy.
Continue. Sorry.
What I'm saying, just crazy for me to watch this because again, actually, it's pretty similar to a point made about Akira, where for me, this is I didn't realize it until I watched it how prototypical was of a lot of stuff I love, and even because I remember very well, for example, the scene where Nagisa's parents transformed got me because it was actually very similar to a scene in which some of you haven't watched yet, but who knows, maybe we will if we have time. Devilman Lady, the 1997 TV series that wasn't an adaptation of Devilman. It was a very loose adaptation of Go Nagai's Devil Lady manga, because after you do Devilman, what do you do?
What do you gotta do, right? Mm-hmm.
So the scene was very similar to that. So I'm like, wow, this is very similar to the scene in Devil Lady. That's 12 years later. What the hell? I looked it up. Same fucking director. I'm like, oh, you clever dog. You clever dog. Yeah, so this guy has direct ties to the Devilman mythos and mythology. And the guy who did the music here, he did the music in Hikaruon, and he also did the music for the first two Devilman OVAs. So
wow. Okay, so it's a very incestuous community, like all these dudes.
Yeah, no, I'm learning more. A lot of the mid to late 80s anime stuff was all just one big pile of incestuous behavior. And
wow.
Yeah, let's call it creative inbreeding.
Yeah, let's call it that. And they definitely had a style. They definitely had a vision. Yeah. And I think this OVA series really carried it out. And although it was over a few years, they all look pretty much the same. And I mean, if we can wrap up the plot real quick, but I mean, it's just like ICZER 1 and ICZER 2 have to fight. It's the ultimate face-off. ICZER 1 like loses first, but then does the thing where she comes back stronger. Literally just like wipes her out in one blow, because ICZER 2 kills Nagisa in the third OVA.
Well, actually, it's crazy. Well, no, actually, what happens is even worse, because ICZER 2 brainwashes Nagisa to fight ICZER 1. Yes. And then, but Nagisa reaches out to her telepathically, ICZER 1, and says, "You have to kill me. I'm not here anymore."
Yep.
Again,
and then she
plot
does.
Device I love, but I love here that ICZER 1 actually did it.
Yeah, because you would expect like her to just be like, "No, there has to be a way," and she finds a way to get her unbrainwashed. No, but ICZER 1 just straight up just kills Nagisa. Yeah.
Shoots her with her weird wrist laser rocket that she has, which is the coolest thing ever.
It's a pew.
And ICZER 2 is even like, oh, fuck me, you did it.
Like, goddamn, I didn't think you'd go that far. You fucked up over there.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to wrap up the plot, let's do it right now, because what happens is there's the showdown, ICZER 1 wins, and somehow she gets like this ability to grant wishes, which I wasn't exactly sure.
Yeah. She gets
this magical fuck off ability where it's just like, all right, I can grant your wish now. So what she does, she resets everything to the very, very beginning of the story, where this alien race who tried to take over Earth, it's in a new timeline where they never show up.
Right.
And there's one beautiful, if not really heartbreaking scene where we get transplanted back to the beginning of the OVA, and Nagisa has no memory of who ICZER 1 is at all. And she passes her. She's like, oh, that's a weird getup. It's like, oh, sorry, I have to go. I'll be late for school. And ICZER 1 is there left with the memories, because that was the decision she had to make. And she chose to bring back her loved one, even though the loved one will never have the memories of what they were to each other and who they were. You know what I mean? So
that was like, to be honest, that was a tear up moment for me. And I was like, I went through this whole OVA series being like, I mean, this is whatever. It's okay. And then at the end, I was like, oh no. Mm-hmm. Nagisa, you don't remember anything?
Yes. And ICZER 1, she cries, swallows her pride, and goes on to fight this alien force to make sure they don't just kill more people. But, that one got me too. I'm like, Oh,
Yeah. And it's like that beautiful dichotomy of her experiencing loss, but her letting Nagisa live her life for what she
exactly.
can. And I think
Exactly.
I may have an answer for you as to what the whole Make-A-Wish Foundation thing was in the show. Because there is one point where Ixer 1, before fighting Ixer 2, because Nagisa has this like strange ability, and it's rooted, of course, in her emotions and how she's able to do things. When she dies, Ixer 1 yells out like synchronization or something, and then they
Yeah.
sync. So I
Yeah.
think that they like merge together in that moment. And then Ixer 1 is given the ability she needs to destroy Ixer 2. And then when she kills Big Gold, she's
Oh,
able
right,
to. Because Big Gold, I think there was a piece of dialogue where Ixer 1 was like, Big Gold, you could easily just like reverse all of this and like make sure none of this ever happened because that's you are all powerful. Why don't you just do that? And she's like, no. And then Ixer 1 is like, all right, I guess I'll just kill you and do it myself.
Yeah.
And then she kills her, and then she could do it herself. I think that might answer the question, but still, it's very vague.
This reminds me, actually, probably one of my main criticisms with this OVA series is that the plot gets explained almost too quickly, and
It
it'll be
does,
like
very fast.
transitionary scenes of what you think would be very insignificant dialogue, but they actually carry major plot details. It's like, guys. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. The thing is, it's not like in Ava where it's intentionally vague. It's trying to give you the information. You just have to fucking really listen for it. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, that's my main. Probably, if I have to critique the show in any way, that's the main critique right there. I'm like, guys, you gotta slow down, because I had to rewind a lot to get the plot. I'm like,
Me too. I had to go
So-
back, and I was like, wait, what was that? What is happening right now? And I think that's my main criticism
not-
too.
So, but that was a little frustrating. Did it take away from my overall enjoyment? Not really, but I was a little frustrated. Where I'm like, guys, give me something here. Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
listen to you.
Well, I think like now that's a good segue to get into final thoughts here. Well, let's start with your thoughts on this. What did you think? And is it bad?
What I think we had here was a very fun artifact of the time in a lot of ways. I mean, the animation was something very unique because it had to cut corners clearly, but it's very interesting to see where they didn't. Like all the body horror stuff was pretty well animated, you know.
It was very well
when
animated.
Someone would grow giant tentacles out of their head, but a scene with dialogue of just two characters talking would not look very good. So they cut corners, but in very appropriate ways. I love the music just because I gotta find the my phone's all the way over there, so I can't pull the composer's name immediately. But you know, he just writes stuff I enjoy. I could get more analytical than that, but I'll keep it in layman's terms. I just like this guy's touch. I like his taste.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the music, and I like the character. I enjoyed the character designs, and I like this action stuff. You know, there was lesbians in space with lightsabers and robots fighting giant demon monsters in the 80s. So it was kind of made for me. I'm biased. Do I think it was great? No. For me though, definitely not bad. Definitely not bad.
Yes, I can understand that, and I think it does. It is something that is, at the end of the day, classic Rob, as I was saying earlier. Everything. I was like, everything that you like about that time period and about that like genre, it really came out in this. It wasn't exactly incredible, nor was it great. But I'm gonna have to say it wasn't. I don't think it was bad either. And
No, it just, you know.
I think it was fine for me. It was more like whatever. It was fine. I don't know. I kind of put it on a similar level that I do like Bow the Visitor, where I'm like it had similarities in like how it looked to me at least, and how it was done to
Right.
me, and it occupied
that's
a
very interesting
similar
point.
Yeah, it occupied a similar time period, and it did a similar thing to me where there were some notes in the story where I was like, oh, that's actually really touching. And other notes where I just had no idea what the fuck was going on. So it kind of
Exactly.
occupied both spaces, and at the end of the day, not going to say it's bad. Not going to say it's great either. Not going to exactly recommend it to anybody either. If anybody wants like something to watch, it was just kind of like a thing that I'm glad we watched it though, because now that we're on that, like we're firmly in this AIC kick and have been since the show has started. It's kind of like a good rite of passage to just discover more about what these kind of OVAs were. And also if maybe there's like just a gem in there that we don't know about.
And so it's so what actually I had to bite my tongue hard because I just had a great idea, but I think we have to do this in a future episode. We need to do a tier list of these things because
yes, we gotta rank them.
We gotta or rank them, or a straight number ranking, make it easier to follow for our listeners. Because I'm thinking about it right now. I'm like, because I was thinking, would I recommend this? Not really, because honestly, there's other AIC stuff I would recommend first. So
see, I agree. Because if you don't like, I feel like I wouldn't recommend this. But if you wanted something around this medium, I would recommend something like this.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean.
We can even like narrow it down to the studio because I think there's other AIC stuff I'd definitely recommend over this. And I would love to talk about that on a future date. Let's do it.
Yeah, me too. Let's do it. But that was ICZER 1. I mean, didn't exactly light the world on fire, but I think it was a good thing for us to dive into to get more into that space of like the 80s OVA wave.
Yeah, exactly.
And really kind of dive into that a little bit more into a kind of a random but apparently well-known OVA series here.
Yeah, there was a bunch of like parodies on the internet in the early 2000s. So if there's parodies of it, it had to be well-known enough. So like there was parody dubs and fans works all the time for this apparently. And there's actually a great video by Mercury Falcon, who is a YouTuber I'm watching a lot of right now. He does almost exclusively retro anime and sometimes some live action stuff as well. If you haven't heard him, go look it up. It's some really good stuff, everybody. And he did a video, which I found after I watched this, called ICZER 1, a lesbian horror anime that defined a generation. And I'm just like, okay, I'm glad we picked to watch this one then.
Well, that's great. But, either way, I'm happy we did it. And, yeah.
Happy we didn't light the world on fire. But, it's another step along the journey of us rummaging through anime to find out what's bad.
And there you have it, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you can leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
Simple Equations Podcast Network.